What's up, everybody? It's a beautiful, I don't know what the temperature is because I've been inside the house for the last 6 hours. It's about 6:30 on July 1st. Happy Independence Month. I think we should get a whole month. Shouldn't we get a whole month? Everything else gets, well, some things get a month, some things get a day, some things get the shortest month, but we're going to get July here. And I'm framing my money because I want to talk about some funny comic news. This is really interesting, and I've seen the effects of this happening. So, Dynamite is one of our comic companies. It's a smaller company, but they make a lot of they do a lot of property, a lot of IPs. So they make like Red Sonja and Vampirella, and they do a lot of the Hanna-Barbera stuff like Space Ghost and the Herculoids and Johnny Quest. So they make a lot of IP comics. So they license a lot of stuff. And those of you who've been following along, Diamond declared bankruptcy this year, and they got picked up by a distributor company. And this is a news article. Apparently, Dynamite is owed $1 million by Diamond, and they can't make their payroll next week. And let me read this article. This is from Bleeding Cool. Dynamite is owed $1 million from Diamond, can't make payroll next week, and wants bankruptcy courts to hurry their decision along. Published today. Rich Johnson. At the end of May, Dynamite Entertainment filed paperwork with U.S. bankruptcy courts regarding the Chapter 11 bankruptcy of Diamond Comic Distributors, now bought by Ad Populum, which I believe is in Canada. Dynamite is claiming that payments that should have been made for comic books and merchandise delivered should be counted as administrative expenses, with hundreds of pages of listings of items that had not been paid for. If successful, Dynamite would have received payments as a matter of priority. Diamond/Ad Populum challenging this attempt. So they owe a company money, and they're like, we don't want to pay it, no matter what happens to that company, which is really shitty. Now into July, nothing on this seems to have progressed, and now Dynamite has asked the courts to hurry this along, saying the bankruptcy rules allow the court to shorten notice periods. That when an act is required or allowed to be done at or within a specified time by these rules or by a notice given thereunder or by order of court, the court for cause shown may in its discretion with or without motion or notice order the period reduced. Jesus, that's why we have lawyers. So basically what this is in the real world, and I've notified a lot of my customers, Dynamite has kind of pulled all their books and they shifted them over to Lunar Distribution real quick, and they need to because they need to sell these books. So we have been quickly changing our orders because Diamond just canceled them outright, didn't tell anybody. I mean, I got a huge sheet, I have 2 pages of cancellations, and now I need to go into Lunar and I need to pull these books back in. But what's interesting about this is Dynamite Comics was always kind of known for their return policy, and it doesn't happen a lot in comics. It used to happen way back in the day when you had comic books that were on like the grocery shelf with the magazines. Those vendors had like a deal where they would go into the shops and they would handle all the magazines on the shelf, and then when the next month would roll by and say they had a new issue of Ghost Rider to put on the shelf, any remaining issues they would pull off the shelf. They would then strip the covers and they would return the covers to show, and then they would just trash the comic books. So if you were having a good day, you'd be in a Hy-Vee and some guy would be working the comic shelf. And I had a guy ask me, "Hey man, you want a bunch of comics? I got to pull the covers off, but you can have them. Otherwise, I'm going to throw them in the trash." I'm like, "Oh yeah, could be great." So that's how they got their money back. When they didn't sell comics, they would send the covers in and they would get refunded for whatever books they did not sell or credited towards their next order. Dynamite would do this for us. So if they wanted to sell a Red Sonja book or a Vampirella book and it wasn't doing great, they wanted to get people to bring it into the store so they could get exposure, they would have a thing where if you buy 20 copies of this book, we will refund any unsold copies. And I took advantage of this a lot. So did other comic guys. And here's where this gets fancy. Diamond is not honoring any of the things that I have purchased. So if I have, let's say I have ordered 20 of a book with the guarantee that it would be returnable, and I have received that book from Diamond. I got my latest shipment last week of like the last of those books I will get. They arrived. Diamond is no longer honoring the deal. So me as a shop that sells maybe 5 of that title on average, I bring in 20 copies because I want to see if I can get sales increased on this, because I've got that backup where if I don't sell the books, I can return them and get my money back so that I'm not taking any undue risk. And that's how you incentivize businesses to carry your product. It's very simple. A lot of the distributors, like in the Cedar Rapids, Farner Bakken was like that. If say you had a box of Garbage Pail Kid cards on the shelf and it didn't sell, you could code it out, send it back, and get your credit, and it was no big deal. But this is a bigger situation because we're just going to get screwed. We're not going to get anything in the end. There's not going to be any payback. We're going to be stuck with whatever it is we purchased, thinking we were going to get something extra. It's not going to happen. So, and points out that Dynamite is currently owed over Dynamite is currently owed over $1 million for shipments that were made, debitor, and Ad Populum LLC, a majority of which are administrative expenses. Dynamite, a small company with less than 30 employees, is a very small company, does not have the funds to make their payroll next week because they're expecting to get paid for the product that they shipped. Wow. And this is a company that is currently selling us books. We're getting books from Diamond. We got books last week from Diamond. In fact, we got some Dynamite books last week from Diamond, and now they're not honoring their deal. If it is not properly paid by the debtor, am I saying that right? Money. The debtor has filed a vague objection asserting potential set-offs, but it has not communicated any such set-offs to Dynamite. Dynamite is aware of multiple other publishers who remain unpaid for millions of dollars of shipments post-petition. The debtor has not had multiple weeks to prepare for a hearing and has not communicated at all with Dynamite regarding resolution of the motion. So it sounds to me like whoever's responsible for Diamond's debt, which I'm assuming is this Ad Populum, is going to screw anybody they can screw unless they're absolutely forced to pay. And companies like Dynamite are going to suffer. Maybe they won't be around. They may have to declare Chapter 11 because they can't afford to pay their people, and they've got licenses that they paid for. We don't know what's going to happen. I think there's a little bit more on this at the very bottom here. The Baltimore bankruptcy courts will take a hearing as to whether the case should or should not be hurried along tomorrow at 2 p.m., this article says. So, yeah, I mean, that is very interesting. It'll be interesting to see what I've got customers that want these books. And if they can't make their money, they can't print their product, they can't ship it, they can't sell it. Hopefully Lunar will treat them good. And, that's it. I wanted to touch on that today because I found that was very interesting. Also, we had a famous death in the comic world yesterday. Jim Shooter, the famous editor for Marvel Comics, who he was known as a bit of a hard ass when it came to doing his job. But because he did his job, Marvel Comics got out on time and they were consistently good. But yeah, a couple pieces of news right there. I'm not going to go crazy with a lot of outro stuff here. I just thought it'd be fun to share this with you guys. But please like, share, and subscribe. I am working hard to try to get this out there to everybody who can. But for now, I'm going to go watch the Fever game because, that's what we do. So you guys have a good night.